Hello, Julian Ebenfeld. Welcome to this conversation. When I saw that you had made a website for Kuni, who has been one of my teachers in Chi Nei Tsang, I reached out to you because I heard that last year, unfortunately, she passed away. And that's when I found your homepage. First time I met her in 95, when I spent 6 months in Chiang Mai, and I had the pleasure to receive many treatments from her and to learn from her. And then later I came back in the 2000s. I think the last time I met her was 2005. I'm curious to know more about how you met her and what you learned from her.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, Philippe, for having me and reaching out to me. I was very happy when I saw your message. Um, yeah, there's so many students of Kuni, and it's very good to be in touch. I got to know her through my own, I'd say, healing journey. I It was in 2014, I think, when I was, I was on a big travel. I was falling out of a scientific career, and then I started I'd say healing or self-inquiry, whatever journey. And it led me from one meditation center to another. And finally, I was attending a Qigong course in Chiang Mai or close to Chiang Mai, and another student said, "Hey, Julian, you always have this belly pain that nobody really understands, like from the medical side." And then I got to go for sessions with a student of Kuni, and that was so healing, and it was a real, yeah. I mean, the whole travel was healing, but that was game changer, I'd say. And I was so amazed by Chi Nei Tsang or belly massage. And finally, I wanted to know where is the source of all of this. And then through that search, I got to see Kuni for the first time, receiving sessions in the first place. And then after receiving sessions, then it felt like, okay, this is so incredible. I want to learn that. And then I was happy to be her student for a while. And that was then in 2015, I think. Yeah, that's the way. And so it was practical. I received it, and I felt the gift was incredible. So it was very practical. It worked for me very deeply. And the belly pain, I was, after a whole series of treatments, I was feeling so light and healed and whole, and there's many words for that, but it was something I hadn't felt in my life for a long time, or maybe since childhood somewhere. And that was so incredible and such a enormous gift. And I wanted to stay with her and learn and see the miracle that she's kind of doing in her sessions and in the way treating people. Yeah. And somewhat how she had, I don't know, she treated me like a son. She would always say, my son, my son." And it was very sweet and touching. And staying with her, eating with her, and all this. And it was also I was confronted with my Western upbringing, I'd say, this cultural conditioning that we receive here. And it was the absolute opposite, almost black and white. And it was very beautiful. The teaching then was, I mean, I don't know how it was for you, but it was not so much verbal. It was very intuitive. It was less with words. It was more with, yeah, hard to describe by seeing it, by her guiding me, but in a very intuitive way. And it was really an incredible experience.
Nice to hear, Julian, because that's also very much my experience, that it's learning in Thailand, eating breakfast together, receiving treatment, giving treatment, getting feedback. It's a less structured way of learning, but it's a very deep way of learning, especially by receiving a lot of treatment. I experienced. Sometimes I still look at some videos I have where I see her work, and then I reconnect with the beauty of her work. Yeah? And this conversation I wanted especially to have with you to honor her work, because many, like you said also, many people have had the privilege to study with her. I know one guy in Brussels who spent 7 years in Chiang Mai.
Wow.
And he studied also with her, and it's amazing because he really absorbed it also, her work. He got a lot of treatment from her and was very close to her. And that was a person I went to when I was living in Brussels, because that somehow reconnected me with Kuni. And yeah, it's beautiful work. And she opened many doors for me, because in my shiatsu training that I had before I went to Thailand, we didn't work so much on the belly. So that's, okay, there was a lot of talking about that it was very important, belly work. But at that time, we didn't have the resources. We didn't know how to work on the belly, except the diagnostics we do on the belly. But then learning to know her and learning from Kuni and learning all those techniques, it was really such an addition, and it helped me to address many more conditions. People who came in the practice that previously, okay, could do some meridian work, but now I could really work from the center. So that I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to study with her. So I found also, it was so beautiful to see this beautiful picture of Kuni on her site, on the site you made with the beautiful flowers next to her. I really could connect again to being with her.
It's really, when you said you want to honor her work, I felt that very deeply, because to me it was so special. And it's like, for everyone who doesn't know, she was living in the middle of the rice fields, like no sign, no, like here in the West, we have all these centers and institutes for this and that and body work and la la la. And there you have this incredible healer in the mid of the rice fields, no sign pointing to her at all. And that was for me. And then I felt very much honored to somehow be guided there and receiving all that. That was, I was overwhelmed also. It was very special. And yeah, there was a moment she was feeling that it wasn't so easy to get to her place for everyone, basically. So that's the first step. I suggested her we could do a Google Maps pin so that people can actually find you and navigate here. And she said, yeah, that sounds great. And then, yeah, it all evolved, and we said, okay, and then she decided or I suggested, or I said we could do a website, but it may also bring things to your place that you don't want. And she was very conscious about it, saying, yeah, I know, but I'm ready for that trouble also. She was happy to do it. And then we said, okay, let's do a photo session, and this beautiful photo was the result of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I will share it in the show notes, the link to the site you made. And I saw also a Facebook page that exists.
I think currently there is the note that she has passed away on that site. It's not the original site anymore, but yeah. That's great. Yeah.
What I enjoyed very much from receiving treatments from her was that she was very generous also, that there were always students, maybe 2 or 3 Thai ladies at that time, who were learning from her, and she was very generous in sharing her knowledge also. That I appreciated very much, and also to be able to be with her when she was giving treatments opened also a lot of understanding that I didn't get always in the other places I learned in Thailand. There it took much more time to come closer to the practitioners, and okay, it happened after some weeks or months that you got accepted, but with her it was a very kind and generous person.
Yeah, she had a huge heart. I was always impressed, and it felt also in the treatments, I felt that she was giving her whole heart in it. And that's basically also the teaching. I felt that she was telling me, don't hold back, don't hold anything back, give 100%. And that was
very
beautiful.
genuine in her work.
And I felt the depth that I hadn't felt in many other places, no matter if teachers or by receiving sessions. So that was the depth where I could instantly feel, wow, this is almost from another dimension, you could say. And also when she taught me, then it was like, you don't see the colors? No? Oh. One day you will see. And I could see, okay, she's on a very different level, and it was really an honor to learn from her. Yeah. And then I got to know some other students of her, and then they told me that she was somewhat born with that capacity, or however you want to say, that she was, as a adolescent already, she was giving treatments that were astonishing to everybody around her. So
I was reading she started when she was 15, if I'm not mistaken. Very early age she started with treatments.
Yeah, and if I got that right, she was with a master in Bangkok, as same as Mantak Chia and Ajahn Pilchest, the famous Thai massage teacher. So there was something very special going on, I'd say. Yeah. 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 And because you asked earlier what was the teaching or what did you what did you learn from her? I think it was this big hearts, this she would basically always say feel, 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 feel. And the Western intellectual brain would always say, yeah, but that's always the same, like yeah. And it was always the same, but it was not. It was it was simple but not easy.
Yeah.
The
And
brain wanted to interfere all the time and understand and analyze and all that kind of thing. And yeah,
And
I found
that
that a
showed
very
her mastery also. It looked very simple what she did. And some people thought, okay, she's doing the same thing, but there was always this nuance and this feeling and this listening to the person.
yeah. Yeah, and when learning with her, she was always on point where I am, and I couldn't see it that well myself. So she was saying, no, you're not ready for this or that. And she was right. So that was like, I think that also later when seeing my other big teacher in India, it was the same feeling that there's somebody who perceives these things so much more clear than myself. So I can absolutely trust and 100%. And she has, and it was a weird feeling in a way to have somebody seeing, feeling, perceiving things more clear and more conscious, obviously, than myself. But it was also a big gift then to, give myself there and let her do in a way. And sometimes it was funny also because she would teach and then she would say, yeah, you continue. Kuni, go sleep. And then she would go on a bench right next to it and sleep and snore. And but it was always on point when there was the next lesson or next step to take after repeating and so on. She would wake up and come by and say, Julian, you want coffee? Then we would sip coffee and then we would continue. It was just, it was, I think, unusual. Like if we would do that kind of teaching here in the West, you would have pretty bad ratings on Google.
Yeah.
But that was like, it was super authentic. It was, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, very relaxed in a certain way. Very, very deep, but very relaxed. And maybe for the people who don't know the work she did, it was very deep into the belly, but at the same time very, very sensitive. So it's very to the point, with a great anatomical knowledge also. That anatomical knowledge not from the books, but from experience, and having touched thousands and thousands of people's belly.
Yeah, I felt her fingers and her vision or whatever it is are so deep, and so sensitive. She could feel things like, and she, like I was doing, and from far she said, no, Julian. And then she corrected and no. And then she would really guide my fingers to that very spot. And then I was like, here it is. It was amazing. And like physically speaking, it was millimeters like that. But energetically, it was a whole different category. And that was, yeah, I agree absolutely. It's exactly my experience. It was amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also someone who didn't look to be a teacher. It just happened naturally to her. And first of all, I experienced her as a practitioner, and the teaching part came naturally with people coming to her and wanting to learn. And that's something that I have seen in the more authentic schools in the East. That's the way of passing on the knowledge to other practitioners. It's not very pretentious, but very deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, no fake facade, shiny facade with perfect marketing. It was just very real. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I contacted also because I wanted to talk to you, but I wanted to talk to the practitioner in Brussels who is very, yeah, it's also master level of Chi Nei Tsang he has, but he has no website. He has a telephone, and he is not interested in any publicity. So when I asked him to also have a conversation with him, and maybe we could have a conversation, the three of us, he said in French, pour vivre heureux, vivons cachés. So he is not to be happy, you keep hidden. So, and I have experienced that with also here in Japan, some of the teachers I have had, that, yeah, the real great practitioners that I have had and that I learned with, yeah, they are not so interested to market themselves somehow.
Yeah.
Because people find them anyway, because their reputation attracts people. It's not the marketing who attracts the people, and it's not the branding, because now it has become so much around branding. And I think that's important to give to that information to new practitioners. It's not the branding or the having a wonderful homepage. Of course, that can help, but it's the quality of the work that will attract people. That I'm more and more convinced of. That
it was my experience as well when coming back from Asia. As I mentioned, I was learning in India also for a while. And the same was there. The teacher Shika in India has no website, no sign, no all this is word of mouth way. Then I was feeling the same. I will not do a website and all this. But then I realized, first of all, I'm not in the league of Kuni and Shika. I'm still more in the world in a way. And then also I felt it should not be a disconnect from the world. I have to somewhat have a entry door kind of. And the website, for example, is the modern way of an entry door. And I think especially these days, people are so much online, less than they are in a physical contact with other people. So much of the communication is online. So to a certain degree, I felt I need to adapt to that. And I'm still, the freedom is to choose what of these new things I adapt and which ones I pass. And so you don't have to do TikTok videos maybe, but a website is nice, something like that, right? So, and even maybe you come to the conclusion that TikTok is what you want to do, but like this is the freedom you can always choose. And I mean, for example, practically speaking, I was always feeling stressed when the phone rang all the time because I could never answer it because I was in a session. And then you had all these messages on the mailbox trying to call the people back, and then like, yeah, and on Wednesday is my yoga day, and so on, and no, on Friday I can, and then you had these conversations over and over and over. Then I felt this is pretty tiring, for example, and the online booking system can really save me from that pain. And so that, like a practical example, like the way online things can also make the life easier and in this way happier.
One thing doesn't exclude the other also. It's being in the world but not of the world somehow. I never thought that I would start a YouTube channel, but somehow I find it important also to share our experience. And that's also why I wanted to communicate with you, to have this conversation, because there are valuable things that we got, and it can be nice to pass it on and just share our experience. But I'm curious to hear more about the Ayurvedic work you did. So because you had a teacher in India, if I don't mistake.
My teacher is in India. His name is Shika. He's the same way he said, he's living very hidden. It's like an urban monk, I'd say, but not, like very deep, but not announcing it much. And it's, the same way as I got to know Kuni, I got to know him. A friend recommended to go there. I received a session, and the single session was so deep and magical and mystical, you'd say, excuse me, that I felt, okay, I have to go there again as soon as possible, almost. And then I received sessions from him as well, and then started to learn there as well. And it's, it has enormous depth, and today I combine these both ways. And also he was, it was a lot about meditation as well. So these are now the three things I do is belly massage, Ayurvedic massage, and meditation. So, sometimes I feel I was somewhat honored to meet even two of these incredible healers that are not, you cannot Google them, you cannot find them so easily. So that was amazing. And
they say in the East, if the student is ready, the teacher comes, and that's what they say in the East, and it's very, very, very true. I'm happy to hear also that meditation is also at the core of your work, because that's also for me true. It's and I see bodywork as a meditation we do it too. It's I'm in a meditative state, and the person, I can communicate silence to the person through my touch. So for me, it's also very essential. So I was reading on your homepage that you met also Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's also a wonderful being and a great master in meditation.
Yeah, I think that was the beginning of my travel. Or the whole thing that in the studies that I did, I was intellectually getting interested in Buddhism, scientifically you could say, and and then I saw him he was holding a speech here in the trade fair, so in a huge space, and it was amazing, and something happened inside of me that the mind could not make any sense of. So that was the beginning. And then when I stopped the scientific career, I wanted to deepen meditation, or this felt like the thing to do. And then I was going to his monastery, Plum Village, to become a monk there. And as wise as the monks and nuns are there, they didn't allow me to become a monk in the first place. They will always say, yeah, or it was like that in the past, come and stay with us, because I guess there's many people that will easily say, I'll become a monk, and then you find out, being a monk, you do 100%, but if it's only 70, then maybe don't. And but it was an enormously healing and deep time I was spending in Plum Village, and it was interesting that later, when being with Kuni or Shika, then I was always asking myself, why are we sitting with 3 or 4 people here and not 800 like with Thich Nhat Hanh? I never understood in the first place. So he was very much in the public and still very, very deep. Yeah. And I found it very beautiful the way you just said it, that bodywork is applied meditation somewhat. And like Shika would show me a quote that in the East, the understanding is that the person suffering is not connected to the spiritual sphere, the existence, or whatever you call it, anymore, and the healing is in reconnecting that person with that space or whatever, and that feels very much true. So when you said it's like you are in a meditative space and then giving the session, and then this connection or reconnection happens, that feels very much true. Yeah. So I found it to be a very essential part of the session, and also that makes it so much different than like here where I am. Physiotherapy, when I say I'm a massage therapist or working as a massage therapist, then people will instantly think of physiotherapy, and you're a physiotherapist. No, I'm not a physiotherapist, and it's hard to explain the difference, but to them. But I'd say this whole spiritual meditative approach is what makes so much of a difference.
Yeah, and people coming to us are like mirrors and can help us to reconnect also with the essence of our own being. That's my experience in my work. So
It feels like I'm very privileged to work with this kind of work because I'm always going in that space with the client, and I'm getting paid for it. And the other person, but basically it's helping me a lot as well at the same time. Absolutely.
It's an exchange, huh? And
it's an exchange, and
that we can realize when the person doesn't want to be in the treatment, because it happens sometimes that people come in the treatment and maybe they are not ready for it, or sometimes the wife sends the man and wants the practitioner to reconnect the man to to the bigger whole. So, and that's challenging treatments, I find, when the person lays there and thinks, "What is this guy doing?" and then afterwards, after the treatment, they ask me, "What do I have to feel?" so then that can be a very challenging thing, but it reminds us that it's very much an exchange. That when another person comes and there is this openness and this willingness to be there, and this trust also. Of course, as a practitioner, we have to gain this trust. The person has to feel that they can trust us. And that's also something we build up with a person. It's a fascinating job.
When I was starting, somebody said, "Why are you not selling vouchers, or how's that called, or like that you can give as a gift for somebody else?" And I was like, I'm not 100% convinced. And then I did it, and it was exactly that way. For some people, it worked out very well. The recommendation by a friend was exactly what was useful, but sometimes it had this exact quality as you just said. I got that as a gift. I don't want to lose it, so I'll go. But I have no clue what I'm doing here. What is this about? Yeah, exactly.
I was happy to read also that you... Sorry. Sorry.
It feels absolutely true that you have to be feeling a certain pull to go for a session. And it doesn't matter if it's curiosity or your suffering make you go or whatever it is, but there needs to be something like that. It cannot be because somebody else says this is good for you, go for it. I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
No problem. So I was happy to see on your site also that you give courses. So you have your practice in Köln in Germany, but you also give courses for couples, I saw. That's a beautiful thing to do.
It the same way, like when coming back to Germany from Asia, I started to give single sessions, and then people started to ask for things, and it was about 2 or 3 years when I was practicing here. A couple approached me and said, do you think we could do a little short course with you, learning about mindful touch and so on? And I felt, okay, yes, exactly. I feel that mindful touch is exactly what the partnership is needing or what is great in a partnership. So I felt, okay, let's do it. And then I tried, and it was amazing. It was so beautiful to see that the couple, and this is now after a couple of years, this is my experience, that couples, they meet very often on a functional level or on a, they functional sounds so bad, like, but they're having a daily life, and the best, or in this work and kids and so on, they can do is go to the cinema or to go for a dinner or whatsoever they do. But it's mostly on the same level that they are relating to each other, and the touch and the mindfulness, that can really, it's a totally different level that they meet each other, and it's very beneficial and healing. And also, I had some couples. One woman said to me, I got to know a side of my husband that I haven't seen for 15 years. So in the touch, in the massage, there's some other qualities shining through or something like this that are very beautiful. And at least it's not a guarantee that you connect deeply with each other, because sometimes it can also happen the absolute opposite. That's the risk that one has to mention also. But I think that's a very beautiful work. And the couples come with different intentions, I'd say. Some have been massaging each other but don't know, like, technically, they want to know more about the techniques. But some others, they realize that they are losing the connection, or that they are missing a certain connection that they had previously had, maybe before children or before, daily life would take over. So, and then they'll eventually find that. And sometimes it's also like people would admit that they don't like a certain quality of the touch of their partner, for example. And then we can work on that and see. And I think that's, again, the point where mindfulness, because the mindful touch is so sensitive and respectful towards the limits, capacities, and so on of the people, that then slowly trust builds up, as you just said before. And it's also true for partnership and partners and couples. So it's I couldn't imagine that it's so making so much sense, but doing it, it's a great work.
Okay, wow, wonderful. So I will put your link to your site, and there people can find more information. So, Julian, before we end this conversation, is there anything more you want to share, or?
I would basically, it's not much sharing, but I would have a question for you. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, of course. Because it's a conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is great. It's not an interview. That's great. Now, I was wondering, like, I mean, you've been studying in different schools and traditions as well. How would you say you integrated Chi Nei Tsang in your work, or how does that feel for you?
So, thank you for that question. So I came back after I went in Thailand. I went to Thailand and I studied the first time. And I spent time that was 95. Then I came back to Europe and I started a school, a shiatsu school. in Sweden at that time. So I reconnected again with the shiatsu work. But of course, everything I had learned, I translated into the shiatsu way of looking at the body, because we have a lot of theory and diagnostic tools that we have in the shiatsu. And it made me also interested to learn more about the belly work, who is at the core of shiatsu, actually. So it's much later that I found the books about that, and together with my wife and some other people who could help me, we translated those books. And it's about ampuku. So ampuku is the abdominal work in the Japanese tradition, who is actually at the core of shiatsu. So that helps more to integrate everything in my work somehow, and to make it an integrated whole. It took quite some time, because if we learn different techniques, okay, now I'm doing craniosacral, now I'm doing Chi Nei Tsang, now I'm doing some other techniques, visceral therapy that I also learned. But how to bring everything together is one thing. And that has taken me many, many years. And sometimes I didn't see the connections and I had to read books. But it's like with teachers, books can be also teachers. The right book comes in the hands and you read the right chapter in the book, and suddenly it clicks and the information comes together. Something that I have been reading maybe 20 times, 30 times before, but it didn't come together. And it's still happening today. Then my challenge was, okay, I had it integrated more or less in my practice, and that's an ongoing work. I mean, it never ends, and that's also the beauty of our work. The body is so rich, and there are so many ways to approach the body that we can learn many lifetimes, I guess. So for me, when I more or less had integrated it in my practice, then the challenge is, how do I teach it to others? Because, okay, I see the connections, but how can I convey that, pass it on to others? And that's a challenge that is ongoing. And so for the moment I'm writing a book, and how do I bring it? How do I put it on paper? Because until now I have just been translating like classics, so that was had already form. But now when I want to pass it on to others, in which form do I bring it? So that's still something that I'm working on. So, but it's fascinating, because the writing helps me to think, and because then some things that I thought I know, I really have to know, because and that's the thing that I experience with teaching also. I can learn things, but when I have to pass it on, like you told about the couples, it's by passing it on that we really start to learn. And also the questions who come, it's really fascinating work.
it is so funny because you just said that when you said Ampuku is the source of belly massage in Japan, I was like, oh, wow. And I always hear it's being sold as Hara massage in Germany. I don't know.
I know, but yeah, it can be called hara massage, or
Okay.
traditionally it was called haratori. But like in the Ampuku book, they also change. They sometimes call it hara work or belly work or haratori. It's very free in that way.
Good. Okay, good. Okay.
The theory behind it is quite deep, actually, and that's something that I started to realize because the translation we did many years ago, but I have been teaching it. And then by working on it and going to my teachers again and asking them, how do we use these techniques? And because it's one thing to translate a book, but some techniques I was not sure about. So I had to go to my teachers and they showed me how to apply the technique. And that's the way I learned more and more the theory behind it. And we work with the classical meridians that are known in acupuncture. But behind it, I learned and I realized more and more that it's working with the extraordinary vessels who are like the basic matrix in the body. And learning all those things and learning that it actually comes all out of the central channel, who is the great Chongmai. And it is said in the classics that it's from there that out of emptiness that everything gets created. It's out of this emptiness of this inner channel that yin and yang gets created. And out of that, 10,000 things. So that's very much at the core of my work. It's the meditation and also the understanding that the channels are so conceived that in the center is the emptiness, is the verticality. That is a constant creation. Creation that is not in the past. It's not the Big Bang that happened so many millions of years ago. It's the Big Bang that happens every moment. Somehow. Yeah.
Wow, this is
and
a beautiful
that I
quote.
think
The
is
Big
what.
Bang
Yeah. So I think that's the thing that people like Thich Nhat Hanh also tell us, that every step, every moment, and to be in the here and now where creation happens.
Yeah. And so I was also asking this because I imagine now you said in Shiatsu it's the meridians, and then in the Thai tradition it's the Zen lines and so on. So it's kind of if you have all these different schools, then you are there's a
that's why I had to stay true
confusion.
to the. It can be very confusing, but from the beginning, I always decided everything that I do is shiatsu. So I had to bring it back to the way of looking at the world from the shiatsu perspective, who is based on Chinese medicine. So that's the way I cope with it. Also, when I go to craniosacral, you have the different bones that they describe, But if you can relate it to the 5 elements or part of the Chinese medicine theory, then it becomes very simple. Or like when I learned visceral osteopathy, they talk about the movements, and they have their osteopathic way of naming it. But for me, it became like a yang movement and a yin movement. So if I can translate it in the language who is my shiatsu language, then I can integrate whatever that comes to me. I think the confusion can arise if I try to understand the whole Ayurvedic concepts of the human being, or the whole Thai, also the Thai meridians. But if I stay true and I translate it to my base, to where I come from, and for me that's shiatsu, then I can integrate it more easily. Of course, it still takes time to integrate. Huh?
Yeah, I was asking that because I had some, like, for me, the difficulty was the Chi Nei Tsang is more following the male principle, like on the points and very precise, and the Ayurvedic is following the female principle and so on. So there was it seemed like some clashes in a way. You could see there's a clash, but also sometimes it is very matching very well with each other, or integrated. But I was interested to hear from you. But you'd say you translated it into the shiatsu world, kind of,
because that's the language I'm used to. Of course, we can use different maps also. When I look at the Thai map of the body, it's nice to see some correspondences. But if I try to go too deep in it, it can become confusing because it's a different angle to look at the body.
Yeah.
And the Chinese and the Japanese medical system has already so many maps. So if I add maps from other traditions, then it becomes completely confusing.
Yeah. Why adding more maps? Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes confusion can be a necessary step also in a learning process. That see, how can I bring this together? That can and there the shiatsu and also the Chi Nei Tsang has helped me, because you stay with something. If you feel okay, here there is something, I will stay with it. And like when in shiatsu we work along the meridians, we apply pressure. I feel there is a resistance or there is a blockage. Maybe it's not completely comfortable, but I will stay here and I will see if it can open up. And that work and that training has helped me in life when there are moments who are more difficult, to also stay with the difficulty and to see if it can open up. Of course, sometimes I have to move, but sometimes life makes it open up. If I can stay there with my awareness, like in meditation, when something comes up in meditation, I stay with it, I see it for what it is. I think that's also part of sometimes, staying with the confusion as a part of the meditation also.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
Shikha in India said, when you know everything, I have to confuse you first. And when you're coming confused, I will bring clarity. Yeah, it's exactly that way. Yeah.
And that, yeah, and that's the beauty of having such a good teachers like we have had, and we have had the privilege. Because sometimes I see some of the students who come to the shiatsu. There are so many workshops these days, and there are so many books. So the choice is enormous. I was lucky when I went to Thailand. There was one book about Thai traditional massage at that time. So I didn't have to be confused, and I found only a few teachers because it was not so popular at that time. So, but I can imagine for people who are new to the bodywork scene, there are so many books. Every day there are books published about bodywork. So sometimes I see that people hop from one workshop to the other, even not having finished the whole education. That sometimes I have to remind the shiatsu students, okay, make that you have a good base first. Then you can explore different modalities somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. In these days today, everything is available everywhere. You can go to Ayurveda, Thai yoga, blah, blah, blah. There's thousands of things, but it is missing the depth and the clarity very often. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the condition we are in these days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Julian, it was very nice to talk to you.